So Silas, what is the one thing that truly maximizes the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
For me, John, this is a real sort of curveball answer, but the most important thing is the quality of the market that you're selling into. So as we witnessed it back in 2008, the biggest hurdle for getting maximum value for the property was the ability to actually get financing to buy the property in the first place. And as we went through the credit crunch recession, as investors, we were able to access different finance that the run-of-the-mill residential buyers weren't able to access. So when we went down the commercial route, we were able to pick up properties for 40 or even 50% of the value that they were selling for, 1 to 2 years prior. And that, to me, is without a doubt the biggest issue in terms of what is the actual maximum value, because a lot of, I think, agents will say, yeah, it's about the marketing, it's about this, that, and the other. But unfortunately, we're all at the mercy of the wider economic picture. And if the market is moving against us, which I fear at the moment it is, or it certainly will be if it hasn't happened in most areas across the UK, as that market moves away, it detracts from the value that agents are able to achieve for their clients' properties.
Yeah. So what do we, knowing the market, and I agree with you, the market is definitely switched into a buyer's market.
Yeah.
I can't say that it's absolutely like crashed, for example, like 2008, but I still think there is an element of, back in 2007, summertime, I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm having it away. Life's amazing. October 2007, got punched straight in the face really hard, with literally mortgage lenders just removing products off their shelf.
You're still there? I think the connection's just dropped out for a second.
That's right. Can you hear me now? We got to the point of 2007 when mortgage products were being taken off the shelf literally at a rapid rate on a daily basis. And suddenly it was like, oh my God. And we were literally surviving off all the deals we did back in, say, March, June, April, May time. And that took us through in 2008. It just completely, so I don't say we're not there, but we absolutely are in a buyer's market where buyers are gone are the days where the agent can say what they want and the market catches up. It's now the opposite. It's much more balanced. So I agree with you. But in your experience, what does a seller have to do then, if we are in a much more balanced market, still to be able to achieve the maximum value? How do they do it?
But so for me, I think for a seller to achieve maximum value, it comes down to a combination of things. And this is all about speed and efficiency and working with the right team. So first and foremost, you've got to have a bloody good estate agent who knows what they're talking about. And you're not going to get that for, 0.5% or 1% even. You've got to pay an agent and you've got to pay them well. And this is false economy when people try and save a couple of £100 on a fee compared to selling an asset worth, 250, 350, 400 or and this is not, me pitching for estate agents. This is just my own experience of being in that position. So you've got to have a good estate agent on board and you've got to have a very good conveyancer on board, or ideally working with an estate agent who works on with 2 good conveyancers who can introduce the buyer to a very good conveyancer and they can fast track the deal through. Because, my concern is if the market is falling away, the longer that sale goes on for, the less value for money that property looks as time goes on. So if you agree a deal for round figures, £500,000 of October, and the deal doesn't complete 6 months, if the market's moved away by 10% in that 6 months, then, to the buyer's point of view, they're overpaying by £50,000 for that property. So it's all about moving quickly, and that comes down to having all the upfront information in place, what I call a seller's pack or a home information pack or whatever label you want to put on it. Have that information up front, and then work with the estate agent and 2 bloody good solicitors to get that deal across the line fast. Because I think, unfortunately, as agents, you have less and less chances of finding buyers in the first place and then getting that sale through to completion. So my advice is find a good agent, find good conveyancers, and pay them well. And if you're paying less than 1,500 quid for your conveyance, I wouldn't touch it personally.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny you should say that. One of the guys I recommend, a guy called Peter Ambrose, is literally just for a sale, not a purchase, just for a sale, 2.5 grand. If he's dealing with a purchase, it's £2,500. And people say, well, why? And I'm like, mate, when we go from, the euphoria of an offer being accepted or getting the money that you want to then going through the conveyance, trust me, you're going to think that was cheap, paying £5,000 for both, because it ultimately is cheap. Because they're going to be at the other end of the line, knowing exactly what they know. They're not going to be dealing with junior conveyancers that have only just started, and there's too many files on the floor for them even to get through or make head nor tail of anything. And then even to get to a partner, you'd be like weeks on end. These guys are senior level people that will deal with you straight away. So I agree with you. £1,500 minimum just for one element of the transaction, totally. So do you know what I really like about... Sorry, Silas, I was going to say, what I really like about what you said is that you're looking at this from a completely different angle. That angle being not just quality of market, but also to get the deal through. And I love what you said, making sure the process is really fast with people that know what they're doing. Because if the market continues to fall away and then you end up having a buyer thinking they're paying too much, oh my God, yeah. Do you know what? I didn't even think about that.
Well, I look at it from a property investing background, and so from the background that I've had, where I've literally worked with people like Martin Roberts, Robert Kiyosaki, Robbie Fowler. When we've trained people to build a property portfolio, speed is the number one thing. And when you're in that position where you encounter all of these delays, you've got to pay away the pain in order to move quickly. Otherwise, it's false economy. You think, oh, I'm going to save £500 on my conveyance, but the deal drags on for 6 months and then the party pulls out and you've already spent £2,000 in mortgage broker fees, survey and valuation fees, mortgage application fees. It just doesn't, to me, make any sense whatsoever. So you have to move quickly to get that deal done. Otherwise, what's the point? And if you look at overseas markets, you look at Australia, you look at America, they're going into escrow and completing the deal within 28 days.
Yeah.
And yet here, for some reason, it's 3 months, 6 months. Why?
Do you know, and because you're a big advocate of actually the similar processes that are better, that speed the system up, and everybody would not argue agency wise that it takes far too long. What sort of initiatives have you got running right now in order to help facilitate deals getting done much faster?
Fantastic. Well, it's a great question, John. Thank you. The number one thing for me is it's education first and foremost of the clients, because with the greatest respect in the world, buyers and sellers might be looking to move. They haven't moved in 10, 15, 20 years, right? They don't really know what the process is all about. And there is not really a lot of transparency in the entire process. So we've centered a lot of our sort of leading edge of our platform, if you like, into educating the client. And that is through training videos, it's through resources like books, for example, where they can access 25 years of knowledge for free and deep dive into actually how do I get my property transaction done, because we're talking the most expensive asset in the world that people have, and yet it's fraught with danger, complication, hurdles. I mean, imagine going into a Bentley garage or a Rolls-Royce garage to spend £150,000 on a car, and you imagine the kind of level of service that you get from those guys versus what most people experience buying and selling through an estate agents and conveyancers. So it's about that leading edge of education, transparency in the process. And then for us, it is all about that upfront information. And the reason why this has become so prevalent is because I bought a lot of properties through auction. And the reason why was because it was so simple. I didn't have to go and negotiate with an estate agent with the greatest respect in the world. I didn't have to go through this laborious process where all the legal information was gathered, and then there could be complications in the title. I had everything up front in the form of an auction pack, and I went to the auction. All right, I got the auction pack before the auction, read the information, went to the auction, bid for the property, contracts exchanged, and then everybody's got a timeline to work towards to complete that deal. And this is what I think is missing from the private treaty route of selling a property. We have an open-ended timeline. We talk dates, but really, is that fixed? Not really. So, where you've got two good conveyancers on the team that say this has got to be done within 6 weeks because that's the rule, everybody's got to move, and they've got to move quickly. And I think the other biggest thing for us is removing a lot of the superfluous conversation, a lot of the superfluous communication that goes on, where as you say, the euphoria, buyer and seller agreed the deal. They think, fantastic, we're going to move within 2 weeks. And then they get into this black hole of the conveyancers aren't talking to them and nobody really knows what's going on. And we're like, well, let's bring some transparency to that process. Let's educate them what's actually going on behind the scenes. What do they need to know? Let's get rid of all these 400 phone calls a week that conveyancers have, which have nothing really to do with conveyancing, and focus on getting conveyancing done. People can sign on them and collect the keys to their new home. And that's all we want to focus on.
Yeah. Do you know, and again, it's something else I agree with, for example, somebody else I did a podcast with said, for Zero BS Estate Agency, said that they only take the buyer seriously once the buyer has got a mortgage offer. Now, they did obviously caveat that with, look, massive duty of care to buyers, but they don't want to be in a position where the buyers, it's all right. Well, look, I'll get things sorted when I want to get things sorted. And I've always been, when it comes to what I think maximizes the value of someone's home, is basically putting it on such a price, it looks like a ridiculous bargain, so I can create a competition. And then within that, I'm then able, as the agent, to tell people what's going on. So categorically, you're here today on a Saturday. By Monday, if you are interested in this, I need for you to raise your hand and tell me that you're interested by such and such a time, because the following day there's going to be a best and final bid. And by the way, I need X, Y, and Z for you before you can even put an offer in. If your offer's accepted, then literally you have 2 weeks, that is it, to make sure your mortgage survey is actually booked in and done and dusted. And if it's not, then the door will start to open to the buyers that missed out. Is that okay? And that was because I was basically wanting to position as best as I could to exchange contracts in 28 days. Of course, that didn't work because it would go longer than 28 days, but that was what I was trying to get everybody to work towards, using the competition for a particular property, good or bad market, in order to speed that process. So I've got people singing to my hymn sheet. But I think what you're saying is yeah, great, get agents that are like that, but what else is out there? What can we do in order to speed the process up so a solicitor doesn't think, who the hell is this dickhead estate agent telling me when I'm supposed to be doing stuff by? Do you know what I mean? So now you've got people that are, and I totally agree with that. And I think that's where the home information packs, by the way, I was a great fan of a home information pack, because for me, everything was just as upfront as it possibly could be, because most sellers, oh, right, brilliant, I've sold my house. Now what I'm going to do, I'm now going to, who's got my title deeds? Oh, does a solicitor deal with that? Do I have to deal with that?
Yeah.
You know that fencer certificate we think we've got? Do we? What about the building regs? Can you find? And suddenly they're trying to find everything after the event. And then that massively slows down the process. And then the seller's saying, what's going on? Why are we not moving? Well, we're not moving, mate, because you haven't got your stuff together. That didn't happen to me, by the way. That happened early in the beginning, but I was taught by my directors, before an offer goes in, make sure, even before the property goes on the market, make sure the seller has a full contract package, even though the solicitor hasn't even asked for it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just as quick as possible, because otherwise time kills deals.
It does.
Yeah.
It's that uncertainty that we talked about earlier, that the longer it goes on for, the more people start getting cold feet and questioning why is it going on for so long? What's the buyer doing? What's the seller doing? And then that lack of communication bit in the middle as well means people just get frustrated and pull out. And why shouldn't they? You know, they're spending hundreds of thousands of pounds and they can't get any answers for what they're doing.
I know, which doesn't make any sense compared to the analogy you gave about going to buy a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. You know, you're selling a 500 grand house versus a 250,000 pound Bentley. And the service you get with the Bentley is a gazillion times better than the service you get when you're actually selling the house, which is worth double the amount. That doesn't make any sense. I also think, going back to your fee and what you think in terms of fees, 0.5 maybe for an agent who's just new to an area, just trying to establish themselves, special offer. Okay, I understand that. But I agree with you as well. Minimum 1.5%, minimum. Really shouldn't be thinking anything less than that. Should really be 2% is what the agent should be going for. And by the way, if the agent is really worth their salt and they actually deliver on their promises, then they should be a minimum 2% agent. That's it.
But they're worth every penny. And when I was first trained to be an estate agent many years ago, there was a guy called Adam Walker, and he said if an estate agent cannot negotiate a good fee for themselves, then hope have they got negotiating the best price possible for your home. And that's always stuck with me. That line has always stuck with me. And you're right. And what I love about your approach, John, is you are being a proactive agent. And part of my life journey, when I was teaching these people how to start and build their own portfolio, we interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of estate agents, right, up and down the country. And the biggest thing that I noticed is that a lot of them weren't particularly take charge. They were quite woolly, if I'm honest, how they interacted with you. And yeah, they've probably heard, oh, I'm an investor and I'm looking to grow my portfolio in the area a million times before, but that's work, that's value, that's somebody looking to maybe buy 2, 3, 4, 5 properties a year from you, and there's the management aspect of on the back of that. And if you can't look after somebody like that, what chance have you got of really sort of growing the business that you really want to? So you're taking a proactive approach. You're taking the client by the hand and saying, look, this is what we're going to do. And there is a certain sense of nervousness of somebody saying, well, I don't want to price my property that low because it looks like we're giving it away. And you're going, well, yeah, actually, we'll drive interest, we'll drive traffic, and I'll take charge of that process to get you the right price. That's vital. I've done that through investing before, and we actually did it with a couple of properties where we leafleted the local area, and we put choose your own neighbours must be sold, and the interest that drives was just incredible. We priced it a bargain basement fee. We turned up on the viewing day. I think we had 20 couples looking around that property. Was sold that afternoon.
Yeah,
and like you say, 28 days later, it's because they can see the competition.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rent a crowd. No, I'm only joking. Don't rent a crowd. But again, do you know what? And this is the thing, you see, because where agents are concerned, let's say I'm one of 3 agents to go in and we're all talking a good game. We're all a little bit slightly different. How does a seller differentiate between 2, 3 agents that look smart, that are driving nice cars? And it's really hard for them to be able to differentiate. And of course, like you said earlier, most people aren't selling their property every other day. But the same point you raised when you're saying, one of the biggest assets that someone's going to sell on an individual basis is that when someone's selling their house, it is literally the biggest event, or one of the biggest events of their lives. The others may be a wedding. The others, I don't know what else outside of that, by the way, but an event manager, event organizer of that wedding is, or even let's say, for example, an event manager of a concert, they will know what a particular type of artist can achieve in terms of ticket prices. And if they price that artist out of the market, no one's going to turn up, no matter how much they like their music.
True.
And it's the same with property. The agent is there as an event organizer to actually organize one of the biggest concerts for their client, which happens to be the seller. So how are they going to do it? So yes, some agents will argue, well, you shouldn't price it too low. Personally, I think you can price a property. My own opinion is, based on my own experience, you can price a property for £1 and it will still find its right level. You know what I mean? Because buyers don't want cheap, buyers want bargains. And so, interestingly, the price, if a house is worth 400 grand, don't put it on at 425 or 430. Put it on at 400 grand and get 45 or 410 or possibly 412. Because by going for the 425, buyers are like, well, I'm not coming to this concert. I'm not buying those tickets. I'll wait for that seller to come down. And then the seller ends up getting 390. And then they got to pay the agent a fee. So that 2% agent, is a 2% agent more expensive than the 0.5 or the 1% agent? If they're actually achieving asking price or above, they're actually cheaper. So when you're talking about, really good agents that have a really proactive approach, that actually are ahead of the game when it comes to the paperwork, that have a full handle and understanding on the process for a buyer and a seller, that know the solicitors, because I think that is huge. I've had solicitors before which did not want to speak to me, no matter how good I thought I was. They just weren't speaking to me because I was an agent earning more money than them, right? I wasn't, because I was like the negotiator that was not earning as much money as the solicitor. But again, having a solicitor that you can actually call and get on the phone with and say, help me, or what do you need for me to help you? And then they tell you, and you go, lovely, I'll get whatever you need. Bye, see you later. And then you go and get what they need in order to speed that process up. Honestly, Silas, I think that's great advice, mate. That really is, because it absolutely works. And the last thing you want is just to be unsure about when you're completing, when you're actually going to exchange, unsure about things in the title that you never thought were coming up, and no one seems to know the answer. Good solicitors would have been there before, seen it, done it, and be able to provide solutions. I just saw, by the way, you pulled up a book, Home Buyers. What was it? Home Buyers?
Home Buyer Secrets. It's a consolidation of probably, 25 plus years of my knowledge and experience into 225-page book, which is designed to navigate through the moving minefield effectively. And there are so many things that can go wrong when you're buying and selling a house, as you well know. And it's trying to steer people away from all the bear traps, all the expense of getting the purchase wrong or getting the sale wrong. So this works for both buyers and sellers. It's just, I could have called it Home Buyers and Seller Secrets, but, it kind of trips off the tongue a bit better really there. So, it's all the knowledge and information that I've got, and then it's backed up as well with a video training as well. So the whole idea is that if people want to know more in a sort of interactive way, they can go on a video training suite and learn about everything from, looking for a property, choosing a good estate agent, choosing a good conveyancer, and all the rest of it. And we walk them through that entire process because it's so important. And when people haven't done it for so long, the biggest thing I see, just to come back to what you were saying earlier, is the commoditization of the industry from an estate agent's point of view. And like you say, 3 agents turn up, all smartly dressed, all driving nice cars, and they largely say all the same things. And there's been a few estate agents that I've spoken to that have actually interviewed the other agents in their local area by putting their house up for sale. They've had the estate agents come around and they're sitting there going, well, what's the difference really between these 3 or 4 agents? And the truth is, not really a lot. And I think this is the fault of the portals, if I'm honest, because I think they've made this commoditization of the industry so easy, but it's to the detriment of estate agents achieving good fees. So to give you a parallel or a contrast, I've just come back from a meeting today with a really proactive estate agent like yourself, John. They sat in a room with 2 solicitors and a mortgage broker and a client who is a developer client. And out of the strength of that 1.5-hour meeting, I reckon they've won £5 to £6 million worth of business.
Wow!
Because they're proactive. They've brought the client into the boardroom. They've sat down with them. They've told them this is how it's going to be. You're going to invest some money up front in this, in getting all the information together, but we're going to do the job for you. And when that buyer's found, we will be done within 6 weeks. Job done. And he's like, well, this is costing me 10 grand a month to keep this development open. I need to sell these houses and I need to sell them quick. And that's how you do it if you want to be proactive and achieve the best possible fee. For him, whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%, when you're paying out 2 grand a month, it's not the.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. Yeah, I saw some other books. What are those other books that you've got?
So for the estate agent side of the equation, there's the estate agents trilogy, and this is all about really navigating a different way of doing things, a new way of being an estate agent and maximizing value. Because with technology now, I'm a big believer, again, moving away from this commoditization of the industry. Doing what you're doing is invaluable. You're putting yourself out there in a way that showcases your knowledge, your expertise, your know-how, and what most people are doing upon the appointments. They've got a 1 in 3 chance of winning the business and themselves an hour to try and win that instruction during the course of that valuation. You've been seeding yourself in clients' minds for weeks, months, years almost before they actually come to sit down and talk with you. So when you walk into their property, I imagine it's a bit like them meeting their favorite film star in some respects, but it's like, this is the man from the videos that I've seen. This is the man who's got his own book, and you are doing it at what I think is an elite level of estate agency. This is what I'm so adamant at pushing right now is estate agents, the ones that want to be the best, the ones that want to charge the most fees. They need their own book. They need their own podcast. They need to be putting information and quality information out there to nurture and educate their clients. Otherwise, if you're leaving it to that valuation, it's over before you walk through the door, especially if they're going head to head with somebody like you.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny you should say that.
Thinking at the way the market's going.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree with you. I had an interview with Adam Horton of Horton's estate agents, and he was saying that one of the things he believes that is directly responsible for maximizing the value of a home is being a digital influencer. And we had the conversation around, if it was me, if it was Adam Horton and it was Phil Spence in a room, despite Adam's influence, the digital influencer process, despite mine, who's going to win the valuation between the three of us? It's Phil Spence all day long. Because he's actually created a massive, massive authority in order to be taken more seriously than Adam or I. But the same rule applies. If I'm standing in a room with just another agent in the local area who has no authority, I'm smashing him all day long, even if he or she's better than I am. You know, so it's so yeah, I completely agree with you. I suppose the other thing as well, the guys that I've been inviting on this podcast are the ones that do have their own videos, do have like massive levels of authority, because they are willing to put themselves out there as well in order to make sure that their truth is coming out, which is actually the truth, just said slightly differently to maybe another way an agent would do it. But again, yeah, it's book, absolutely. Podcast, absolutely. TikTok channel, Instagram, absolutely. Yeah. So are you actively, I mean, you're actively training, coaching estate agents then?
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we've looked at with our platform is how do we give people the most value from being part of this community that we're building, because we're all about building this community of fast track deals, get the deal done in weeks rather than months. And I've looked at this sort of service offering, and one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that a lot of estate agents need some help and support in terms of the overall business, not just necessarily winning instructions and all the rest of it. So we put together a kind of coaching program. Well, we actually put together a 5-day challenge, which I think you attended, didn't you? So we went through a 5-day challenge, which is all about winning more instructions at higher fees. And that is about, again, sort of summarizing, if you like, the Estate Agents Secrets trilogy book series in a kind of condensed 5-day format, but then taking that further forward and going, do you know what? I'm here to help you as a resource. Let's do, 6 weeks, 12 weeks of coaching, whatever it is, whatever fits for you. Let's get you to write your own book. Let's position you as the number one authority in your field. And I'm quite gobsmacked with some of the results that people are getting as a result of this. And, I'm doing it at the moment, I'm doing it for free because we're getting this platform launched and I'm helping as many people as I possibly can. And it's really humbling when people come back and say, do you know what, this has just happened. And I'm getting, WhatsApp updates or this is coming through. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's really, really good. And it was one of the parts of my journey that I really love when I was teaching people about building their own property portfolio, is that kind of coaching and mentoring gives you so much back when somebody says, oh, you've helped change my life, or I've got this deal and now I'm financially free, or, somebody, like I say, has just won £5-6 million worth of property in an afternoon. Phenomenal. And they're just going to build their vision, their success, all from this one event. So I just love it. I think it's fantastic. And I think there's estate agents that kind of need that support because the market's changed. And for some, in fact, quite a lot, they haven't been around since 2008, or before that. So this is the first recession they're going to experience. They probably haven't got the tools in the toolbox to navigate this choppy waters. And one of my estate agent mates in 2009 was keeping his office open just by doing EPCs. That's how desperate it was at that time. And people think it can't get that bad again. And I'm sitting here going, I think it's going to get a lot worse. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to in the market, but I've looked behind the scenes at the banks, and I've looked behind the scenes at what debt they're carrying, and I'm looking at the state of the economy, and I'm looking at the interest rates and this massive asset bubble that's been created by funny money being pumped in the economy. And I'm sitting there going, this is a recipe for disaster. I don't know how we navigate through this and all come out unscathed. So I think agents need that support. We're also in the process of setting up a conveyancing academy in the background to teach more conveyancers how to do fast track deals. So that's going to be something we'll be launching in December, and I'm really excited about that. So it's trying to give as much support to the industry as we possibly can and create that community of can-do people, bring more people into this 1% of agents and conveyancers that you talk about, and really try and move the industry forward, because you've got 1 million people a year moving home. And quite frankly, at the moment, it sucks. And this is why most estate agents don't get repeat business. It's why most conveyancers don't get repeat business, even if it's not their fault, even if they delivered excellence, but the whole experience was marred by delays, frustrations, lack of communication. It can be somebody else's fault entirely, but unfortunately, that you were part of that experience as well, and they don't come back to you for that business. And we want to get rid of all of that. And you'd be surprised and amazed at how many incredible people are coming to the table right now and going, yeah, we want to be part of this journey with you, and I'm dead excited about it.
Yeah, and fair play, mate. Fair play, because it has to happen. It can't be the archaic system that we have right now. It cannot be a party over here, a party over here, and a party over here, and everybody hates each other but pretends they're all in love when they're really not. It has to be doing what you're doing, which is grabbing everybody nice and tight and actually going, no, let's sort this out, because it doesn't need to be this way. And actually, we can get these things done so much faster. We just need the right people behind it. So being at a spearhead of that, I'm not surprised, because I'll be well on board for that. And I'm sure the loads of agents I know that would be well up for understanding that a lot more too. Yeah, I think absolutely it's great. Now, going back to the point you just made, my last point I'm going to talk about is when you're saying that you feel the market's actually going to go a lot worse than what it was in 2008, I take it there will still be deals to be done, still property to be sold. But effectively what you're saying is if the agent is a no one in their local area, then they don't stand a chance of getting those deals that happen to be sold in a really, really bad market. Is that right?
It is, and I think there's a couple of elements or layers to this, really. And my view is it's about what aspect of the market are you appealing to. So if, for example, we experience a similar situation to 2008, which I think we will, some kind of credit crunch arrangement, then the traditional resi buyers, the number of transactions is going to fall significantly. Now, that may not be a bad thing, because all of the agents and solicitors that are not acting in the most professional capacity and who are, shall we say, the deadwood in the industry will naturally fall away. And I'm okay with that, because they're the ones that are holding everybody back. Okay, so you then end up with the more concentration of power in the hands of those that know what they're doing, the 1%ers or the elite level agents and conveyancers. So that's how I see things moving forward. But in terms of the market, you're gonna have to be tapping into people like the property investors, people like the landlords, and that market is actually starting to become more attractive despite the regulation issues. The return on investment is actually looking better. So, any agent that's well known, that's created their own authority, that is in the thick end of actually doing deals, and they've built a nice network of property investors, they will be doing exceptionally well and actually teach specific strategies that I'm not aware of being taught anywhere else around how you actually tap into those portfolio landlords and how you get them spending money with you and how you start doing those deals and then line up the management on the back end. So the whole idea is to get paid from one transaction at least 2, if not 3 times. Okay, and that's the way I think agents need to set it up. They need to be far more proactive in terms of publicizing themselves, promoting themselves, and not only that, switching the way that they do things. And the same tactics will work as, excuse me, as you were talking about earlier, John. You're pricing a property competitively and attracting interest. I see that in the auction room all the time. I've seen properties advertised at £30,000 in an auction room that are worth 150 all day long, and they've sold for 200 because everybody just goes mad. I want to buy that for 30,000. All these hands go up in the room, and then you use this glut of people, and the price just flies up within seconds. That strategy works because people love a bargain. Even when times are hard, you'll flush out that right buy that goes, I want that. That's a good buy, that is. So yeah, so much that we've covered in this podcast that is the essential substance that agents need to thrive throughout, I think is going to be a potentially tough time.
Yeah, totally. Right, Silas, you have been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I'm eternally grateful to you, mate. And actually, I absolutely love your insights. Thank you very much.